That's working. All right, I'm just gonna start a little early here. Just let everybody know that the Dakota Legacy Initiative that was put on or run through the Employees Association is now live online. So anybody can go here and use this as a resource. You can look up your county and all sorts of stuff like that. And also, if your county or whatever updated something or got a new grant, you need to let Sarah know so they can get it updated on there. So if people are in there looking, let's just say for Stutzman County, and I just got a Jamestown Reservoir one, well, they're not going to be able to find it in there. So it's just a whole bunch of cost share opportunities and partners and everything they have going on. There is some information back here. If anybody wants to grab it, they can on their way out. So just letting everybody know that is live now. So that is, you guys, anybody can go on and mess around with that. So, otherwise, we are going to get started. And starting, we got Beth Hill with the Forest Service. So she'll get her presentation going.
Awesome. Thank you, Dustin. And thank you, everybody, for being here today. Listening to the presentations this morning, I got a real feel that there's a real thirst and a need for education. And so I was asked to talk about some environmental education tips for maybe people that aren't teachers, like you guys, you're natural resource professionals, you know what you're talking about. How do you translate that information to the students that you guys will be working with? And so we do that through environmental education. It's a process that increases the learner's awareness and knowledge about the environment and related issues. This helps them to develop necessary skills and expertise to address these issues. And it fosters attitudes, motivations, and commitments to make informed decisions and then take responsible actions. And so environmental education, it doesn't advocate for a certain viewpoint. It kind of teaches kids how to think, not what to think. And this helps to enhance critical thinking, problem solving, and effective decision-making skills, and teaches those kids to weigh various aspects of environmental issues to make informed decisions. And so we are dealing with rapid changes with urbanization and technology. Kids are spending more time inside behind a screen, and this has created a disconnect with nature. In the coming decades, our public will be called upon to assess complex forestry issues, conservation issues, and they are going to have individual decision-making that impacts these things. And so creating a scientifically informed citizenry is really important for the long-term sustainability of our forest and our natural resources. My name is Beth Hill. I work as the Outreach and Education Manager for the North Dakota Forest Service. I am the Project Learning Tree and Project Wild Coordinator. And so today we're going to talk about Project Learning Tree and how this can kind of help you in the classroom. We do have Project Wild. This one is geared more towards habitats and wildlife, but Project Learning Tree is more about forestry, which I think is really applicable for you guys as you're doing tree plantings and soil conservation. And so introducing Project Learning Tree, it's an award-winning environmental education initiative designed for teachers and other non-formal educators, parents, and community leaders working with youth from age preschool all the way through grade 12. PLT advances environmental literacy, stewardship, and career pathways using trees and forests as windows into the world. PLT provides educators with high-quality professional development, hands-on activities, multidisciplinary supplemental education that they can use and readily integrate into their lesson plans. It helps students increase their awareness, knowledge, and appreciation of the environment, help them to build some of those really essential skills for those informed decision-making, and really just gives them a personal responsibility to take on our environment and really get an appreciation for that. And so I'm sure you guys have been asked to come into the classroom by teachers. It's always fun. Teachers really want you to help them teach about environmental topics. Oftentimes, environmental education isn't a designated class in the schools. And so teachers, they seek these outside professionals with the expertise that maybe they don't have. And so they turn to you guys, they turn to the Forest Service, they turn to NRCS, and they ask for help on how to teach some of these environmental topics. And so that's where you guys come in. The teachers want help. And you guys can make a difference. By providing meaningful experiences in nature, we're building tomorrow's stewards of the land. These hands-on activities make learning fun for all ages. And then it also helps to develop knowledge and skills to help with math, science, and other topics to meet our environmental challenges. And so today's workshop goal is to know how to say yes when a teacher calls, have the right tools to do so, and be confident about that. In a full project learning tree workshop, we're going to be going through all of these different topics: pedagogy, questions to ask teachers, different scenarios, modeling some activities. We only have an hour, and so we're only going to do a few of these things today just to give you a little dip into what project learning tree is like. But I will note that Takina and I are working to put together some PLT workshops specifically designed for Soil Conservation District employees. We'll be having them in 4 different locations across the state. Tentatively, those are Watford City, Dickinson, Devils Lake, and Oaks. And these will be held towards the end of August. So if this information that I present today sounds good to you guys and you want to learn more, definitely be on the lookout for some more information about that. So as natural resource professionals, we know our stuff. When it comes time to work with those outside of our realm of knowledge, though, it can sometimes feel like we have to translate what we know into a different language so that it makes sense for our audience. So we have to know how to teach what we know. We do this by using tools that the schools may already have, like rulers, tape measures. I can show them my diameter tape that I use to measure diameter of a tree. But by doing that, we're missing out on the chance to tie in what they're actually learning in their math class to real world application. So instead, show them the tool, but have them take a piece of string, wrap it around the trunk of a tree at 4.5 feet above the ground, talk about why that 4.5 feet above the ground is important, and then take that string, have them measure it out, and then work backwards. They have their circumference, figure out what the diameter is based on some of those math applications that they should be working on in their classroom. Use plain language. This one is super important. I know we like acronyms. We know what we're talking about, but when we're talking about what EQIP or ESP is, students don't know what that is. And so we want them to understand the information that we're putting towards them. If you talk about a program that farmers use to put conservation on the land, that's more applicable to what they're understanding. Or I'm a soil science person. I got my degree in soil science. And so if I'm talking about an argillic horizon and a calcic horizon, that doesn't mean anything to them. And so if I put the soil in their hands and we learn how to texture it out, they'll feel the amount of clay in that argillic horizon. Or in that calcic horizon, we drop some acid on those the calcium carbonate. They see the bubbles. Those kind of things really deliver home what I'm talking about instead of just the technical terms. So it's bringing that content down to their level and describing it in terms that they can understand. And I can't stress this one enough. Pick activities that are appropriate for their age and grade level. With PLT, all of our activities are correlated to a specific grade level. And so this makes it really easy to do. Okay, so this is a little activity we'll do. When we're going into the classroom, there's a number of different questions that we should ask the teacher before we go in and decide what activity we're going to do. I want you guys to think about this for a few minutes. Maybe work with somebody at your table. What kind of questions? What do you need to know before coming into that classroom? Write them down. We'll talk about them in a little bit.
We're just discussing the fact that in most cases, the schools don't reach out to us. We come up with an idea and just.
Oh, okay. That's good though, too. That's good to know. What county are you guys in? Vincent and Foster, okay. Do you guys have an eco ed day that you host? Looks like we've had some good discussion. Does anybody want to share what they came up with? That's a big one. Yep. Those are all good. Absolutely. That's excellent. The pictures one is really good. I know we like to share the work that we're doing, so pictures are great, but there's a lot of times there's students that either foster children, they can't have their photo taken. So that's a great question to ask for sure. What else, what are they learning in the classroom at the same time? That is a great one. We'll talk about that on the next slide. That's great too. Absolutely. And around that, if there is an issue with behavior, who is going to be in charge of that discipline? Shouldn't be you, be the teacher, but there's always going to be one. Yeah.
Teacher chaperone present, because sometimes teachers, like, you walk in the class and they leave.
Yeah.
And they do, yeah.
Yeah.
So when I set it up, I always tell the teacher.
Request they stay in the classroom.
That they, yeah.
That's great. Anybody else?
Online put schools want to know or need to know the Common Core standards that are being met with lessons, the
Ooh.
lessons.
Excellent, yes. So that's one topic that is definitely super important to keep in mind. In addition to the ones you guys already talked about, the setting is super important. Is it gonna be inside or outside? If it's inside, if it's outside and it's middle of winter, is that gonna be fun? No. But if we're inside, what kind of resources do we have to work with? Because if you want to do an activity on tree ID and it's the middle of winter and there's no leaves on the trees, that could be tough. If they have conifers, maybe it's a little more realistic. How long do you have? Do you have an hour or less? Are they willing to have you come in a few different times, maybe once a week for 4 weeks? Maybe you can build upon your lesson based on that. Are there any trees around the school that you can use, or a garden that they have that you could use for some hands-on activities is super important? Or do they need to travel somewhere? Like you have an outside event like an eco-ed that you guys could host. You want to choose an activity that meets the teacher's needs in that classroom. I always ask what topics the students are learning about right now in the classroom. That makes it applicable real world to what they're learning. I know a lot of times, especially with math class, they're like, oh, I'll never need to know this in my life. And then you can show them that, yes, you do need to know the concepts of diameter and circumference, or, figuring out the height of a tree and angles based on that. So definitely bringing what they're learning in the classroom into what you guys are doing is super important. And again, just like they mentioned online, the state standards are really important. If you're gonna teach in the classroom, that's the gold star. North Dakota content standards serve as a model to develop teaching and learning goals and expectations for what students should know and be able to do for their grade span. It helps you to understand, is the content that you're teaching understandable for that age level? And then also by asking you to come into the classroom, they can say, well, we learned about this content standard by doing this activity with this partner, aka you. And the nice thing about PLT is it's aligned to the next generation science standards. And so that's one thing that you don't have to worry about if you're using Project Learning Tree, is it's already correlated to the standards based on that. I always like to double check it with the North Dakota state standards too, because those seem to be always changing. So I put the link in here too. I can send my PowerPoint to you guys when I'm done. So you have that. But yeah, it's based on the state standards is a really big one. I definitely stress that. Become familiar with the different content standards for the grade that you're working with. So some best practices for presentations. Say don't rely on your PowerPoint when you're presenting. You want to keep it simple, add content while speaking so you don't just read off the slides. This helps you to be able to follow along, use a worksheet so that the students can follow along with what you're presenting about. You want to have step-by-step instructions to help students be able to follow what you're doing. I know when we're doing things like choosing cover crops or, measuring trees, there might be some things that we just kind of do by muscle memory that we kind of just do because we know how to do it and we've known how to do it for a long time. That might not be the case for those students, and it's likely not the case. And so step-by-step detailed instructions is going to help them figure out the things that you guys are doing. You want to give each person a tool to handle. This is going to be super important, especially for those younger kids. They like to touch things. They like to put them in their mouth and they like to, see them and smell them. And so giving them something in their hands to use is going to really drive home what you're trying to teach them. I know, especially when I teach with tree cookies, they say, oh, it's a cookie. Can I eat it? And I always say, well, I wouldn't eat it because it's not going to taste very good, but you could. But give each person a tool to handle. If you're using an increment board to see like the rings inside of a tree, let them do a couple turns, each of them, so they get like that hands-on experience. And share and discuss in small groups. I know when I'm speaking to a big group of kids, there's always going to be some squirrely ones off in the corners and doing their own thing and hopefully not on their phones, but they could be. And so by breaking them up into small groups and talking to a few more students, it makes it more personable. If you can do that in your classroom setting. And then again, incorporate those hands-on activities because kids are very tactile learners. They like to touch things. They like to see how they're done right in front of them. They like to do it themselves. And so those hands-on activities are super important for kids. And so what we'll do next, on everybody's table, there should be a table on your table. It's got red and white and blue and green. And there should be a little baggie with some concepts that you guys can match to there's different topics that it matches to, and then there's different age levels that those concepts can be applicable to. So if you want to work with some people at your table, go ahead. But what we're going to do is kind of look at these different activities that you could do and then match them to the appropriate age level and content topic. Getting close? Is that fairly easy? Hi. Come on in.
Some of them could go different ways. Like, I feel like some of the 6th to 8th grade and the 9th and 12th.
Definitely. As the kids get older, their conceptual understanding for a lot of topics gets better.
Yeah.
So like that 6 to 8 to 9 to 12, definitely there could be some overlap for sure. Any tricky ones? You guys still working on it?
Well, yeah.
So for stewardship in K through 2, which one did you guys have? Trees need your help, absolutely. So in the do, it has pick up trash, plant, water, mulch seedlings, collect and bury acorns. So very like hands-on stuff, not so much conceptualized, just showing them what you're working with. So for the 3 through 5, which concept? People can help the forest, absolutely. So things like mulching trails, pulling buckthorn. We don't really have buckthorn here in North Dakota. I got this from Minnesota. Plant, water, mulch seedlings, label or tag seedlings. For 6 through 8. Forest can be healthy or unhealthy, absolutely. So that would be things like identify or remove invasive species, play clean ghost concepts, measure diameter and height, count trees, saplings, pruning, and PLT's forest for the trees activity, which goes about how trees are managed. And then so 9 through 12 would then be forests are complex and need stewardship. So interpreting a stewardship map, silviculture tours, measure trees, scale timber. We don't have so much of a timber industry in North Dakota, but could be something to talk about. Plant seedlings and saplings, then using GPS to define stand and plot boundaries. So, and using that technology to really drive home those concepts. For fire, you guys might not have much experience with fire, but for K through 2, what concept will we use? Good versus bad fires, absolutely. So Smokey Bear, ID, good versus bad fires, don't play with matches, those kind of concepts. The North Dakota Forest Service does a lot with this. We focus education on 2nd graders for Smokey Bear. We give them free promotional materials. So if you have any 2nd graders you work with, let me know so I can send them free stuff. For grades 3 through 5, what concept will we use? Yep, absolutely. So how to put out a campfire, discuss Smokey's message of only you can prevent wildfires, and then PLT's living with fire using the fire triangle and fire tag. I use this one a lot with kids and it's really fun. Get to see them just run around and be crazy, and then also conceptualize, you know, how fire can spread. Grades 6 through 8. Yep, people need to be responsible about fire, discussing consequences of wildfire to people, animals, and environments, how to build a proper campfire, demonstrate firefighting tools, and then again, PLT's living with fire, fire tag activity. So then grades 9 through 12 would then be fire can be managed and used as a tool. Prescribed burning concepts would be applicable here, firewise educational materials, and demonstrate tools to plan prescribed burns. For the trees, K through 2, what concept will we use? Yes, trees are living things and are made of parts. So find parts of a tree, observe and describe trees, find seeds, seedlings, saplings, and dead trees. And then this is where we can introduce coniferous versus deciduous, or broadleaf versus evergreen. For 3 through 5, what concept? Yes. Trees need specific things to grow and compete for their needs. So here we can kind of go further into describing trees, opposite versus alternate, coniferous versus deciduous. We can start measuring things, so circumference, DBH, or diameter at breast height, and then PLT's every tree for itself activity. This one's really fun because you basically put them in a circle and you have a bunch of chips that kind of represent things like water and sunlight and nutrients. And then you have them just all go at it and they have to get one of each color. And then if they don't get one of each color, then they die. That one's fun because you can simulate like what a drought would look like and how that's hard on trees. And so I really like that one. For 6 through 8, which concept? Trees can be categorized. Yep. So further into that tree ID, here you can start to introduce dichotomous keys, find forest layers, talk about the canopy, the understory, the different parts of a forest, and then using GPS to locate trees. And then grades 9 through 12 would then be forest change over time, forest ecosystems and plant communities. Nothing succeeds like succession is another PLT activity, ecological classification, and then plant ID. And then lastly, we have our forest products, which concept would be applicable for K through 2. Yep, trees give us food, wood, and paper. So show tree food, maple syrup, apples, nuts, things like that. Categorize tree products. So we have wood, paper, and food, and then collect and sort nuts and seeds. For 3 through 5, which concept? Yes, we use trees every hour, every day. PLT's activity, We All Need Trees, goes further into this, talking about those wood, paper, and food products. If you have a maple tree or a box elder tree, this is where you can tap a tree and collect syrup. And right now is about the time to do that in here in North Dakota, so that's pretty exciting. If you wanted something timely, you boil down that sap and you make syrup based on that. And then you can also make paper with them. That's another PLT activity. I don't know if you guys have ever done that, but it's fairly easy and it's very fun. 6 through 8. Yes, trees provide many products: timber, pulp, cellulose fiber. We use all of the tree. So again, PLTs, We All Need Trees activity, talking more about those cellulose and fiber products, something that might not be as obvious that comes from a tree. If you have a portable sawmill demonstration, that's cool. I don't know if I have one, so I don't know where you would get one of those. And then lastly, we have forests provide many complex services and associated products. So talking about carbon sequestration, biofuels, wildlife habitat, erosion control, and then here is where we introduce those jobs, forestry careers, recreation, and then urban forestry benefits. And so I have some of these if you want to take them with you to kind of keep as a reminder for age appropriate activities. I just have a couple more on here. If you're working with elementary, again, using those tools, getting things in their hands, showing the annual rings on a tree cookie or core sample is always just really fun for the kids. You can buy these off Amazon for fairly cheap. So, or, I mean, if you guys are working with trees and have to take out dead trees, you just cut them and then put them in the oven, dries them down. That way it's free. Show and tell for tools, if you have an increment bore or a diameter at breast height tape. And then talking about some simple tree ID, whether that's, alternate versus opposite, not going into how descriptive like a specific dichotomous key would be, but more so like compare and contrast these two leaves. Which one is, broadleaf, which one is conifer, kind of those kind of things. And then doing those hand-on planting, mulching, watering a seedling. There we go. Middle and high school, you're getting into more of those technical topics. So measuring circumference, diameter, the height of the tree, using that dichotomous tree to do tree ID, utilizing GPS, talking about forest inventory and management, and then some of those further topics like watersheds, pruning, and then wildlife habitat. So once you're done, hopefully that's not the last time you're ever brought back into that classroom. You want to find ways to let the teachers know how to continue or build on some of the lessons that you did. So providing them some pre-made activity kits, if you have one, maybe about those tree cookies, have some books that you can lend to them, a set of rulers to do some tree height evaluations, those kind of things. Make sure to give them access to PLT. So connecting them with me at the state level, I can connect them with professional development opportunities that we can give to them. Our goal at Project Learning Tree is to get these resources in the hands of educators, whether that's non-formal like you guys or formal in the classroom. And so you guys could be a great asset to our program by spreading the word about PLT. And then let them know that they can reach out to you again for your help. If you like going into the classroom and doing work with kids, I think that's a great thing to do. And there's always like a thirst and a need for that. If you don't get some of those requests from the school to go in, I don't think it's a bad thing to kind of put your name out there and say, hey, I'm here. I would love to speak to your kids on a topic of your choice sometime. I'm familiar with soils or, conservation or trees, and just say like, I'm here. Because there's been a lot of turnover with teachers lately, and some people just might not know you're there as a resource. And so just putting your name out there is a great way to do that. So again, this is our K-8 Explore Your Environment Activity Guide. When you guys do take our PLT course later this August, if you go and attend one of those workshops, you'll receive this guide. It's a book that has all of our resources in there. It's organized from K through 2, 3 through 5, and then 6 through 8. So everything from kindergarten all the way through 8th grade, we have activities based on that. If you work more with high schoolers, then we have resources for that too. Or if you work with preschoolers, we also have resources for that too. But this one is kind of our catch-all. Most often, it's going to be those elementary school, middle school that invite us into the classroom. Okay. If you have any questions, I'm here. This is also my email and my phone number. I also have cards if you want me to give that to you, but I'll be talking to you guys soon about some of those workshops we'll have coming up in August. What's my time?
Got,
Got some time?
Yeah.
Okay. So while we have time,
everything else is here, right? So I can stop this.
Yep.
Okay.
so everybody should have a paper plate on